because it had literally always been that way, even in childhood. There was never a moment where I thought, wow, I'm really holding a lot of tension, because to me, it wasn't tension. It was just completely normal. My jaw was always clenched. Always. My shoulders were always tight. My neck, honestly, it always felt like steel. The muscles in my neck were just locked all the time. If I touched them, it felt like cords, like tight cables running down both sides, and I didn't think anything of it. When your nervous system has been in that state your entire life, you don't experience it as something is wrong. You experience it as baseline. It wasn't until other people started pointing it out, telling me to unclench my jaw, or asking me why my shoulders were always so tight, that I even started to question it. And even then, I didn't fully get it, because I would try to relax and nothing would happen. And honestly, I thought I was relaxed. I mean, I was so used to it. I didn't know anything different. I'd try to drop my shoulders, for a second, and they'd be right back up again without me even noticing. It wasn't a choice. My body just lived like that, constantly braced, constantly prepared, like it was waiting for something, even when nothing was happening. And I didn't realize how much that was affecting me, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, everything. Because when your body is in that state, you're not actually at rest, ever. Even when you're sitting still and trying to relax, there's always this underlying tension, like this quiet hum in the background inside of you. And over time, you don't hear it until one day something shifted. And for me, that shift didn't come from forcing myself to relax, and it didn't come from breathing exercises. Trust me, I tried everything, or telling myself to calm down. It came from removing what was keeping my body in that state in the first place. The environment, dynamics, and constant emotional pressure. The relationships where I never felt safe, even if I told myself that I did. And once I started stepping away from that, something started happening. My body started to respond differently. It took time. It was pretty slow, but little by little, it started to let go. And I remember noticing it, like catching myself and realizing my shoulders weren't up by my ears, or my jaw wasn't clenched. And it felt a little unfamiliar, because I wasn't used to my body not being tight. There were even moments where the lack of tension felt extremely odd. Not really uncomfortable, but just out of the ordinary, because it was, right? Like my body didn't know what to do without the tension. I hadn't just been stressed, I had been living in a constant state of physical bracing, a constant state of fight or flight for years. Literally 40 years. And when that starts to unwind, it didn't feel like instant relief. It feels like your body is learning a completely new way to exist. There were days where I could literally feel the tension releasing in layers, like my neck would start to soften, and I'd realize just how tight it had been before. Or I'd take a deep breath, like a real one, and it would feel different. Like I used to always breathe in my chest. I never did breathe in my stomach. In fact, it was difficult for me to do so. But I never knew why. I thought that was just the way that I breathed, you know? Like there was space in my body that hadn't been there before once it started to unravel. Like I was able to breathe deeper. There were days where the tension would come back though, like depending, like if something happened and I felt threatened in some kind of way, my body snapped right back into that old pattern. And I wouldn't notice it at first, but I did notice it over time, because I had started getting used to it not being so wound up. And I had to learn not to fight that, because forcing my body to relax, trying to fight it would actually just make it worse. I had to show myself, show my physical being over and over again that it didn't have to stay in that defensive state anymore and that it was okay to let go. And that doesn't happen overnight, especially when your body has spent years, maybe your entire life, like mine, believing it needed to stay ready. But the biggest thing I had to understand was this, that my body wasn't actually the problem. It wasn't holding tension for no reason. It was responding to everything I had been living in. And once I changed that, my body started to change too, not because I forced it to, but because it finally had the space to do so. So if you're someone who feels like your body is always tight, your jaw, your shoulders, your neck, and you don't even really notice it unless someone points it out, that doesn't mean you're just a tense person. It might mean your nervous system has been in survival mode for a really long time and your body has adapted. But adaptation doesn't have to be permanent. It can change slowly and gradually. And it might feel a little awkward at first, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that your body is learning what it feels like to not have to hold everything so tightly anymore and not have to brace for danger constantly. Because when you remove the danger from around you or yourself from the danger, whatever that danger may be, because our bodies don't know the difference between someone manipulating us and someone threatening to harm us directly. It just picks up on the deception, it picks up on the danger of it, and because it's all physical, right? So once you remove that from your life and remove yourself from those types of surroundings, it will let go gradually. And I will tell you from personal experience, it is so worth it to have it do so.